Hey, it's me. Normally on my channel, I'm focusing on painting things, either a flat surface or an item that's already been formed. It's a bag, it's a squishy, it's a rock, and I just paint it. That's what I like to do. Today, I'm going to branch out a little bit and try my hands at sculpting. Now, I am not good at this. I have dabbled in clay, just dabbling, like in high school art class. And then there was the whole pottery wheel experience. That didn't go very well at all. Me and clay are a little bit at odds, but today I want to give it another try. I have realized that I'm not that interested in polymer clay because that involves sculpting, which I'm not very good at, and baking, which I'm not very good at. But I've been thinking a lot about air dry clay. You can add water to it and make it much softer and easier to work with. You also don't have to use the oven, the dreadful oven. Also, you have to paint it in the end, which is exciting for me because, you know, it's like something to look forward to. I've done a small amount of research and found that a lot of people seem to enjoy using this clay. Hopefully we're doing something right. I don't know. Heavy. Let's get into sculpting and painting something. All right, so clay, here it is. You know, I'm really liking that flower on there.
I'm gonna make that.
Okay, one step at a time. I'm gonna lay down some wax paper for my work surface. I mean, it's not the prettiest, but it'll work. Alrighty, so let's cut this open. Rip out a chunk or a bunch of chunks. This is when having long nails is not an advantage. Clay building up under the fingernails, not a great feeling. Let's just squish that around a bit just to get it warm. I already feel like I don't know what I'm doing here. How about a drink? I'm just wetting my hands and working that into the clay to get it nice and soft and easier to work with. Okay, yes, that feels nice. So what should I make?
Flower?
No. Keep it simple. You know what this looks like already? A blob. What if I made a set of custom blob figurines? Oh, yes. Kind of like the one that started it all, but hopefully much better than that one. I do need to work on smoothing this out a little bit and getting the shape right. Okay, there is a proper blob shape. Grabbing another small lump of clay, and I'm gonna get that into kind of a turd shape, a very smooth,
wet turd.
Okay, gross. Yeah, sorry. I'm just describing what I see here. What would you call that? And look what I found. This long lost bag of clay tools. This is the result of hoarding from different kits, gifts, and projects. I don't even, what is all this? I do know that they all have something to do with clay. So they're coming out today. This is their moment. Except for that one. I don't think that one belongs in there. I'm gonna use this one to cut my turd in half, and that'll create my little blob hands. I do remember from my one clay project in my high school art class, you have to score the pieces before attaching them together. You just make little shallow cuts in the clay, and that's supposed to give you a stronger bond, right? Am I right? And then look at this. I found another use for this tool. I'm gonna try to smooth out the edges of this. This is looking whack. Sorry, let's try that again. Step 1, roll into turd. Step 2, cut turd in half. Score and stick. Okay, that seems a more appropriate size for a blob hand or arm or nub. I still don't know what to call these little appendages. Also, I don't know why there's a butt crack developing. That's so immature. There's clearly a butt crack there, and it kind of needs to go away. Next, I'm gonna work another lump of clay into
the feet.
These are not much different than the hands, arms, nubs. Do I need to put up a poll to choose the correct terminology? Because I will do it. Ooh, my favorite part. Watching the seams get smoothed out. Even though I have no idea what I'm doing here, it's mildly satisfying to watch. Okay, and I have the basic form complete. Next, I'm going to start bringing in some facial details. Oh, that's right. I'm doing some advanced sculpting now.
funny.
I am going to give him a big open mouth smile, so I need to completely dig out his mouth. I'm also creating eye sockets. That's scary. So I can place some little eyeballs in there. One is clearly larger.
I am not a professional.
This kind of looks like a melting granny blob. Ha! I really wanted to add a big tongue in there, so let's stick that in place. That's a blob with a tongue right there. Woo! We're killing it. And then I added some little dimples to give him a little more expression. And I made some grooves for his eyebrows, and then I realized that makes no sense. Your eyebrows stick out, they're not indented. So I brought in some 3D eyebrows to kind of fix that. And then it was just a whole bunch of smoothing and trying to get this to look decent. All right, I think that's good. I like it. So I set it out to dry, and that's gonna take a while. And by a while, I mean forever. So we might as well work on something else in the meantime. I got this. I did it once, I can do it again. So I'm gonna mold and smooth this out until I've created this. The blob figure. It's so beautiful, like a wet potato. Now, side note, if you're wondering about that single clay project that I made in my high school art class, nobody. It was this weird blue box that I painted. I held on to it for years, but it ended up getting broken when I moved a couple years ago, along with a couple other casualties of that move. This died. I just kicked it over. Sometimes my clumsiness just makes decisions for me. Anyway, I made her arms kind of hanging in front. Here goes the face, and I want to do a real derpy open mouth blank stare. Once I added the eyes in, it looked almost like a fish, a stunned fish, and that's it. Nailed it. This is what I wanted. Finally, I want to add a nice accessory. You know how I am about those accessories. I'm gonna try to step things up here, take on a little bit more of a challenge, and I am trying to create a nice big bow. This was pretty tricky. It's a thin, complicated shape. I want all the pieces to stick together, but I can't really push them together too hard or the whole thing just gets smushed. I had pieces falling. Uh-oh. It was quite the delicate operation and at times a complete mess. What is happening here? But eventually I did get things straightened out. After a bit of final smoothing, I think I'm satisfied with that. So you are going to join your friend here and dry for a few days. I need a fresh start here. Let's get out some new wax paper. I'm basically a pro blob sculptor at this point, so let's do this. Get this clay nice and squishy and nice and gooey. Now, honestly, making things out of clay has been on my video idea list for a long time, and I've been dreading it because I've had some struggles in the past with clay. The only part of this that I was really looking forward to was the painting portion, but I did not hate this as much as I thought I would. In fact, I didn't hate it at all. In fact, I kind of really enjoyed it. I think starting simple does help instead of trying to do something that's way outside of your skill level and ultimately landing in a pool of sadness. If you start simple, you're much more likely to have fun and be satisfied, and then you can just gradually keep building and adding more and more and get better and better. Now about that flower, I decided to try to create a little rose for my blob. It didn't turn out as beautiful and delicate as the one on the packaging. No, it's a little more clunky and chunky, but I was also making it at a quite small size. Also, it's an appropriate flower for a blob. I gave this blob a nice, simple, happy face. I was getting a little bit tired at this point, and I didn't really want to do anything crazy. Now, after letting these dry for about a day and a half, I had to turn them over because they've got wet bottoms and let them dry like that for another day and a half or so. Finally, the clay is dried and ready to paint. And it looks pretty decent. No major cracking or anything like that. Although the surface is definitely not the smoothest. That's my lack of skill. I did decide to try some very fine sandpaper and see if that helped to kind of smooth out those little wrinkles and dimples. Not sure if this is a thing you're supposed to do with clay. I just figured I'd give it a try. I can't say that it made a huge huge difference. I guess this is as good as it's gonna get. Let's finally paint this. Woo! This is what I've been waiting for. So I'm gonna cook up 2 tones of green paint, a lighter and a darker version. And here we go. Ooh, exciting.
Can you feel it?
I chose to go with green because this blob kind of reminds me of a frog. Must be that tongue. So I thought, let's go with it. Froggy blob. I love it. And then while I was painting this, I kept hearing this noise outside of my window.
The heck is that? What is happening? Hello?
Finally, I got up to see what it was, and there it is. There's a freaking frog screaming outside of my window. Maybe that's why I've just created Froggy the Frog Blob. I was receiving subliminal messages from a literal frog outside. And as you can see, I'm creating a little gradient here just to get a more interesting look with the paint job. Once that's done, we need to get some tongue action. What I mean is we're gonna paint the tongue, starting on the inside of the mouth and then painting on that tongue. That is so cool to look at. I don't know why, but I just like it. It looks so good. Maybe because paint is so yummy looking, I always want to eat it, and then seeing it on a tongue is kind of satisfying. It's like, ooh. Anyway, I'm also adding a little flush to his cheeks, which means, of course, I have to reblend the gradient that's in the background. Yeah, go ahead, create more work for yourself. I'm going in with a detail brush to kind of clean up around the edges, give him some blob freckles or frog freckles. He's a hybrid, so there's no telling where his features are coming from. Also going to color in his eyes and add some highlights to give him that wet look.
Yes!
I love it.
Last step, I'm pouring some varnish, and I'm going to cover the entire piece to protect my paint job and give it a nice shine. And here he is, my first clay creation complete. His name is Froggy, and I love him so much. I think this is so cool. I mean, yes, it's simple, but I feel very accomplished. It was really, really satisfying to form this completely from nothing. Why am I trying to stick my finger in its mouth? You can tell that my skills are maybe not the best. The surface is a little rough, it's a little wonky, but I'm not gonna be too picky about it because this gives me joy. It's my little pet, and I love him. Now enter Stunned Fish Blob. I did go ahead and give her a quick sand as well. It didn't hurt anything last time. We are going for magenta on this one. Actually, more purple than magenta. A magenta purple. Actually,
More of a plum.
Oh my gosh.
you see the color, right? That. Right over that face, here comes the paint. For some reason, with this blob, I knew immediately that it needed to be a stunned fish face with a giant bow, and it had to be purple. I don't know why. I don't know where this idea came from or what I don't know. I also did kind of the same light to dark gradient on this one that I did on Froggy, so they look good when they're all together kind of as a set. I went for a bright golden yellow on the bow for some nice contrast. I really like this color combination. It's so rich and nice. I'm giving her the classic rosy cheeks that I can never seem to resist doing. Some shading on the bow, which is kind of interesting because, usually shading is used to create the illusion of depth. This has actual depth, but for some reason I still feel the need to shade it. Now adding in the little details. She's really coming alive now. Ooh! Adding the highlights and some little freckles. These are her blobfish freckles. Oh wait, no, not blobfish. She's a fish blob, not to be confused with the blobfish. Adding on the glossy varnish, and here she is. I love this one just as much as the first one. She's quite a strange little thing. She also kind of reminds me of a fruit, like a plumfish blob.
It's a new species.
And I just love her expression way too much. It's so cute. Okay, and on to the last little fellow. This is the blob holding a rose. And I'm gonna pull the golden yellow color from Plumfish Blob's bow and blend it into a deeper orange. I want to keep the colors somewhat cohesive for the whole set, so I didn't want to add another one at this point. This blob, I have to say, I think is my least favorite of the three. story. He's cute and all, but compared to the other two, I just don't like him as much. But that being said, he is going to be a valued member of the trio, so let's give him his moment, okay? And I'm already on to adding his little cheeks, which were a little tricky. They kept wanting to go to the strange brown color. Nope, don't do that. And I just stuck with white for the rose because, again, I didn't really want to introduce any new colors to this set. And painting the very strange and thick stem with the froggy green, adding in a simple little face, freckles, give the rose some shading, especially in the petals since the white really washes it out. We want to bring back some of those details. Finally, adding the white highlights, except whoops, nope, I don't like those. Okay, there. And on to the glaze. Okay, final member of the Blob Squad complete. I guess this is Blob Squad 2.0 because we can't forget them. He's cute. I can't really understand how he's holding on to that flower because it's really just kind of floating there, but we can overlook the physics of that. Here is the final set all together. They're like my own custom figurines and they're just so cute. I'm so satisfied. I'd actually be heartbroken if anything happened to these, so hopefully they're not as fragile as my old clay stuff. It has taken me years to try working with clay again, but I actually think that this was my best experience with clay ever. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye!